In March, Wacom introduced the Wacom Intuos Pro 2025 series of pen tablets. To get right to the point, the Intuos Pro 2025 is the new best pen tablet ever made, but it shares that title with the older Intuos Pro 2017. Both have excellent industry-leading drawing performance. I do recommend the Intuos Pro 2025. However, it has introduced some significant differences from previous generations, and these require some careful consideration. This will be especially true if you're thinking about upgrading from the Intuos Pro 2017. And although the Intuos Pro 2025 may be an excellent tablet, it may not be the right one for you. Compared to the 2017 edition, core drawing performance has not changed at all, so it remains excellent. The big changes are that the ExpressKeys and dials are now at the top, multi-touch support has been dropped, the tablet has much smaller bezels, and now the tablet comes with a new pen, the Pro Pen 3. It's easy to get fixated on some of those changes, and yes, some of you will be disappointed. However, Wacom has made some very interesting improvements, what I would call quality of life improvements. These are refinements and additions that are not so obvious at first, but they do really improve the overall experience of using and owning this tablet. Should you buy the Intuos Pro 2025? If this is your first professional pen tablet, then yes. If you just want the best pen tablet, then again yes. If you already have an Intuos Pro 2017 and want an upgrade, then maybe watch this video and see if the quality of life improvements I mentioned are going to be compelling for you. And if you really must have multi-touch support, this is not the right tablet for you. Some people are looking to buy their first Intuos Pro tablet, and they're wondering, should they buy the older Intuos Pro 2017 or the Intuos Pro 2025? The Intuos Pro 2017 is a great tablet, a fantastic tablet, but in general, I recommend that you buy the Intuos Pro 2025. This topic deserves some real attention, and I don't think it's a simple answer. There are a lot of things to take into consideration. I will publish a written guide on this topic in a week or so. When I do, I'll leave a pinned comment on this video. This video is a summary of my evaluation and testing. In a few weeks, I'll be publishing my detailed written notes. Leave a comment if you'd like me to address a specific topic in those written notes. I spent my own money to purchase this tablet. It was not a gift or a review unit. I don't have a business relationship with Wacom or any other tablet brand. And Wacom did not ask me to make this video. I don't use affiliate links, I'm not selling anything, and all my written notes are freely available without any advertising. From 2009 to 2025, there have been 4 previous professional pen tablet editions from Wacom: Intuos 4, Intuos 5, Intuos Pro 2013, and Intuos Pro 2017. These pen tablets have evolved in many ways, but they've maintained that same general layout in all those 16 years with the ExpressKeys and dials on the left. So when we found out that the ExpressKeys and dials were moved to the top, it was quite a shock. As of April 21st, only the medium and small sizes are available for purchase. I bought and tested the medium size for this video. Though I will be talking about all 3 tablets. I'll purchase a large size as soon as it's available and update my written notes as needed. The model number for the medium is PTK 670. You can find it printed on the back. In an online store, you might see the model number listed a little differently. It might include a few extra letters and numbers that I've highlighted here in red. You can ignore those extra letters and numbers. Those are just like a region code. The first part is what matters. PTK 670. I'd like you to be familiar with the model numbers of the series and the specific tablets, because it's very easy to accidentally purchase the wrong tablet on Amazon or eBay. You might see a tablet listed as simply Intuos Pro. You might see that the size is not listed. Or you might even see that the tablet is named incorrectly. So the only way to be sure that you're buying what you think you're buying is to verify the model number. I'll start by looking at the design of the tablet. This means what it looks like, what it feels like, how it interacts with light. The pictures that Wacom publishes don't do the tablet justice. I think it's a very beautiful tablet, very professional, clean, very serious looking. Lots of people disagree with me on this, but I think it's the most beautiful pen tablet Wacom has ever made. The photos that Wacom publishes don't capture how the drawing surface reflects light. It's not shiny, but it definitely reflects light differently than the top part where the ExpressKeys are. The parts of the tablet where you don't draw, the top part where the ExpressKeys and dials are, and the back, have a slight speckled texture. It's a subtle detail that you'll see a lot of in my close-up photos in this video, but don't worry, it's not too rough. You can just barely feel it. It looks and feels very similar to what you might find on a high-end digital camera body. The back of the tablet is very simple. There's nothing there except the name Intuos Pro. The tablet comes in a plain cardboard box. Wacom has been using this kind of packaging for a while to be more environmentally friendly. But I do miss the more colorful box of the Intuos Pro 2017. Inside the box is exactly what you'd expect. The tablet, the pen, extra nibs, a cable, and a printed quick start guide. The package only includes one pen. This was a disappointment. Other brands are starting to include 2 pens for some of their professional models. This was a trend started by Sense Labs, and I would really appreciate it if Wacom adopted the trend. It's a very nice gesture, and it's so practical to have 2 pens because if the first one is lost or broken, you have a backup. The core specs for this tablet haven't changed since the 2017 version. Notably, the number of pressure levels has remained at 8,192. I've always said, you don't need many pressure levels, only around 2,000, so 8,000 is more than enough. And I consider 16,000 pressure levels from other brands to be marketing hype. The 2017 edition comes with the Pro Pen 2, but the 2025 edition comes with the Pro Pen 3, model number ACP 500. Compared to the Pro Pen 2, in terms of drawing performance, there really is no perceivable change. I did see a slight decrease in the maximum pressure and thus pressure range, and Wacom did make some physical improvements for tilt. The key changes for the Pro Pen 3 are that it is incredibly customizable and no longer has an eraser. When you get the Pro Pen 3, you get the base pen, but you also get a lot of additional parts that you can use to customize the pen. You can use the pen without a grip. In that case, it works like a slim pen, or you can use one of the 2 provided grips. One of the grips is a basic cylinder to add extra width, and the other one is the same cylinder, but it's flared out a bit at one end, and that gives you a shape that's more similar to the Pro Pen 2. You can control the weight and weight distribution of the pen using the included metal rod. You can leave the rod out of the pen so that your pen is kept very light, or you can put the rod in the pen to increase the weight. The rod is heavier on one side than the other, so depending on the orientation of the rod, you can have more weight toward the front of the pen or toward the back. Wacom had to provide an easy way to open the pen so that you could insert or remove the metal rod, so they added a cap that you can unscrew. As I draw, I find that the cap slightly unscrews over time. So every time I start a new drawing session, I always check the pen and screw it back in if needed. It's a minor irritation, but that is my only complaint about this pen. You can configure the pen with these button plates to have 3 buttons or no buttons. You may notice that there are 4 button plates available. 1 pair are used when you have a grip installed, and the other pair when you don't have a grip installed. Many of you will be disappointed that the new Pro Pen 3 does not have an eraser. I'm not an eraser user, so this did not bother me. Wacom suggests that instead of using the eraser, you map one of the buttons to an eraser tool in your applications. Or even simpler, you can continue using the Pro Pen 2 with this tablet. Wacom did not improve the tilt sensing mechanism of the pen or the tablet, but they did make a physical improvement to the tip of the pen. These red lines highlight the angle of the Pro Pen 2, and these purple lines highlight the angle of the Pro Pen 3. If we lay those lines over the Pro Pen 3, you can see how much the angle has changed. This makes it easier for you to physically tilt the pen down for more extreme tilt angles without the pen's body getting in the way. And just to be explicit, the Pro Pen 3, just like the Pro Pen 2, does not support barrel rotation. If you want barrel rotation, you can use the Art Pen, model number KP701E. However, I have to tell you, the Art Pen is no longer in production and is getting very expensive and very hard to find on the used market. I'm not good at measuring initial activation force with my equipment, so in this case I have to rely on my subjective evaluation as I tried multiple units of Pro Pen 2 and Pro Pen 3. What I found out is, to me, they have a similar initial activation force when used with their default pressure curves. This leads us to an interesting change about the default pressure curves. In the Wacom driver, the default pressure curve for the Pro Pen 2 shows a dead zone at the low end of pressure. This dead zone means it's ignoring the very lowest end of pressure. The dead zone appears for the Pro Pen 2, the Grip Pen, and the Art Pen. This makes sense for those pens because they are very hypersensitive at low pressure, and some units can actually report pressure even if they're hovering. So the dead zone prevents that problem. The Wacom driver does not have a dead zone for the default pressure curve for the Pro Pen 3. This could be because the oversensitivity problem has been fixed in the electronics of the pen, or it could be that there is a dead zone implemented in the driver, but the UI for the pressure curve does not show it to you. At this time, we do not know exactly what is happening. I'll do more research and I'll add any more information I find to my written notes. But in the meanwhile, I just want to emphasize that when I used the default pressure curves for both pens, they felt like they had the same very low initial activation force. I measured the pressure response for 6 units of Pro Pen 3 and 6 units of Pro Pen 2. And these are the plots side by side. These are the plots for the 6 Pro Pen 3 units, and these are the plots for the 6 Pro Pen 2 units. Putting them together with the Pro Pen 2 in red and the Pro Pen 3 in blue, you can see they're very close. Though you can also probably make out that the Pro Pen 3 seems to have a bit lower maximum pressure. I found that the Pro Pen 3 had a maximum pressure of roughly in the range of 600 to 700 gram force. This is a bit less than the Pro Pen 2. That had a maximum pressure of about 700 to 800 gram force. I don't think this difference is significant because 600 gram force is still extremely high. What's important is that the units of both pens are very consistent in how they respond to pressure. You can see these graphs are very tightly grouped. When I see this kind of consistency, I think it means a reliable manufacturing process and a consistent experience for you. Like all EMR pens, the Pro Pen 2 and Pro Pen 3 are hypersensitive at very low pressure. I'll talk more about how that hypersensitivity affects strokes and what you can do about it later in the video. You need to be aware about the replacement cost of the pen if you ever lose or break yours. The Pro Pen 2 was already expensive at $80. The Pro Pen 3 is $130. Later in the video, I'll also talk about some alternative pens which cost less, even though they don't have the same great drawing performance. In the box, you get 10 replacement nibs, 2 rubber nibs, 3 felt nibs, and 5 standard nibs. You're only seeing 2 standard nibs because I dropped all the nibs to the floor and I lost a few. The Pro Pen 3 is not compatible with the Intuos Pro 2017. In 2022, Wacom did say they would provide an update that would bring backwards compatibility to the Pro Pen 3. However, as of April 2025, they haven't mentioned that again as far as I know, and so I don't expect that they are ever going to provide backwards compatibility. Now I'll start exploring the core drawing performance. In one word, it's excellent. It's just as good as the Intuos Pro 2017. Here are all the criteria I look at for drawing performance. Some are crossed out because they apply more to pen displays than pen tablets. The first big test is whether you can go smoothly from low to high pressure. Again, the results are excellent. The Intuos Pro 2025 with the Pro Pen 3 is just as good as the Intuos Pro 2017 with the Pro Pen 2. Diagonal wobble is a periodic wave in the strokes as a pen is moving more diagonally. It's something that usually occurs at slow speeds, and all tablets have some degree of it. Again, I evaluated the tablet excellent in this regard. It has a very low amount of diagonal wobble, and about the same as the Intuos Pro 2017 medium. Here are the results of the diagonal wobble measurements for the Intuos Pro 2017 medium, and here you see the results for the Intuos Pro 2025 medium. Zooming in a little bit, you might see that the line thickness is a little different. That's just the way I did my tests. It has nothing to do with diagonal wobble. For both, you might be able to make out just a little bit of wobble, but for the industry, this is excellent. EMR pens are in general hypersensitive to very low pressure, and when you're drawing in certain conditions with your pen held vertically and your brush size is big, you can notice some weird things, and lots of other things can exacerbate the issue. Even if you do experience these artifacts, there are techniques that can mitigate the issues. In summary, the Intuos Pro 2025 behaves the same way as the Intuos Pro 2017. Here are the results of this very extreme test I designed to find these artifacts. It involves drawing with extremely light pressure with a 500 pixel brush. These strokes do look weird, and that's partly because of my hand and partly because of the tablet. Both tablets have very similar results in this very extreme test. And keep in mind, if you do experience these issues, you can address it by using a pressure curve, and if your app supports it, you can also use pressure smoothing. Here's the same very extreme test, except the stroke on top uses a pressure curve, and the stroke on the bottom uses a pressure curve and pressure smoothing. These strokes look much better. Tilt compensation is how well the tablet can keep the computer pointer underneath the physical tip of the pen. It's pretty obvious in pen displays how good or bad tilt compensation is, but it is not easy to visualize with a pen tablet since there is no screen. But in my testing, this tablet did a very good job, and tilting did not displace the pointer much at all. I would say it was just as good as the Intuos Pro 2017. And in general, Wacom has excellent tilt compensation. Pressure scan rate testing essentially means, can I test if the tablet will miss any strokes? I drew 50 very quick strokes as fast as I could, and the tablet did a great job. It did not miss any strokes. Pointer lag is how much the pointer trails behind the physical tip of the pen. Again, this is one of those things that's very obvious to see in a pen display, but with a pen tablet, you kind of have to develop a feel for it. My results were very good with the Intuos Pro 2025. I experienced very low pointer lag, and it matched what I saw with the Intuos Pro 2017. And Wacom professional tablets in general are very good at having extremely low amounts of pointer lag. Auxiliary inputs are all the ways you can provide input through the tablet that do not involve the pen. This includes multi-touch, ExpressKeys, buttons, dials, sliders. The Intuos Pro 2017 did support multi-touch, but Wacom dropped multi-touch support with the Intuos Pro 2025 edition. Personally, this wasn't a problem for me. I was never satisfied with multi-touch in the first place, and it was always the first thing I disabled when I got a new tablet. But I know for some of you, multi-touch is extremely important, and in that case, this is not the right tablet for you. The ExpressKeys and dials always appear as pairs on these tablets. Here you can see two pairs of them on the Intuos Pro 2025 Medium. The large and the medium tablets have two pairs of ExpressKey rings and dials, but the small has only one ExpressKey ring and one dial. I got a lot of questions about whether it was easy to accidentally press the ExpressKeys and dials. For me, the answer depended on how the tablet and the keyboard were arranged. When the tablet was to the side of the keyboard, I didn't have any accidental presses while drawing or typing. When the tablet was below the keyboard, while drawing, I did not have any accidental presses. If I was typing and my hand reached the bottom of the keyboard, I would still avoid accidentally pressing the keys and dials. But if I was typing and my hand reached to the top of the keyboard, then my hand would accidentally press the ExpressKeys or dials. My actual drawing setup does not involve the keyboard at all. I use a toolbox device to the left of my tablet. So in this situation, of course, I never press the ExpressKeys or dials. In the end, I just don't need ExpressKeys, and I certainly didn't want to ever trigger them. So just like I have done for many years, I ended up disabling all the ExpressKeys and dials in the Wacom driver. And just to make this clear, it's not because they didn't work correctly, I just don't need them with my drawing setup. One thing I did accidentally do was press the wrong thing. Sometimes, when I intended to rotate the dial, I would accidentally press the ExpressKeys, and vice versa. And I think that's because they have very similar sizes and shapes, and my hand wasn't sure where they really were at the top of the tablet. I suppose over time, I would have developed a better sense and muscle memory about the locations and avoided accidentally pressing the wrong thing. The dials rotate left and right, of course, but one thing you should know is that you can't press the dial to perform a third action. When you rotate the dial, there's a soft click. You can feel it and there's a small sound, but it's not loud, it's not irritating, it's very nice. The dial feels good to rotate, it doesn't rotate too easily, and it doesn't take too much force to rotate. Because it may not be clear in some of the photos, I wanted to show you that the ExpressKey ring has 5 buttons, because there's a 5th one in the middle. I have a lot to say about size in terms of both the device and the active area. As a device, the Intuos Pro 2025 Medium is smaller than the 2017 Medium. And here are the dimensions of the active area. Do note that the active area has an aspect ratio of 16:9. This will become very important later in the video. The active area of the Intuos Pro 2025 Medium has increased by about 18% over the Intuos Pro 2017 Medium. This pattern of decreased device size and increased active area size is true for all of the sizes. For example, the large is about 23% smaller as a device, but the active area has grown by about 1.3%. The medium tablet is about 20% smaller as a device, but the active area has grown by about 18%. And the small tablet is about 23% smaller as a device, but the active area has grown by almost 23%. In summary, this means that these new tablets will fit better on your desk and give you more space for drawing. The 16:9 aspect ratio will make a big difference, but before I show you how, I need to remind you about how aspect ratios work for pen tablets. If the aspect ratio of your pen tablet's active area does not match the aspect ratio of your monitor, then you'll get distorted drawing. In this diagram, the tablet's aspect ratio is 16:10, but the monitor is 16:9. A perfect circle traced out on the tablet will be drawn as an oval on the monitor. And this distortion is occurring for every movement you make on the tablet. It will feel very weird to draw this way. The fix is very easy, it's almost one click. Wacom calls it force proportions, but other tablet brands give it different names. When you enable force proportions, the tablet driver restricts your active area on the tablet so that it matches the monitor perfectly. Then, when you draw a circle on the tablet, it will be translated as a circle on the monitor. There's no more distortion at all. The price you pay for this distortion-free drawing is that you lose a little bit of active area on your tablet. The exact amount you lose depends on the specific aspect ratios involved. For the Intuos Pro 2017, you turn on force proportions in the Wacom Tablet Properties app by clicking on Tablet, then Mapping, and then enabling the checkbox called Force Proportions. For the Intuos Pro 2025, you go to the Wacom Center, then you click on the tablet, then click on Mapping, and then you enable Force Proportions. To keep it clear, for all pen tablets, Wacom or otherwise, I strongly recommend you follow these 2 steps. First, if you have multiple monitors, map your tablet to a single monitor. If you want, you can use a display toggle feature to switch between the monitors dynamically. And second, turn on Force Proportions. I always recommend that you turn on force proportions for pen tablets, but it is not needed for pen displays. Now let's talk about why the 16:9 aspect ratio of the Intuos Pro 2025 is really good. First, all 3 of the new tablets have a 16:9 aspect ratio. If you divide 16:9, you get a number like 1.7 with 7s repeating forever. So I approximate that number as 1.78. You may notice here that all the numbers are slightly different from 1.78. That could be because Wacom provided rounded numbers for the dimensions of the active area, or it could indeed be that the digitizers are slightly different from 16:9. But the differences are very, very small, and it will not hurt if you turn on force proportions either way. Here is my point. The Intuos Pro 2025 tablets have native active areas that are larger than the equivalent 2017 models. But if we factor in force proportions, because we need that to avoid distortion, then the differences are even bigger. Let's suppose you're using a 16:9 monitor and you turn on force proportions for the 2017 tablets. With that monitor for the 2025 tablets, you can turn on force proportions or leave it off, it won't change anything. Taking force proportions into account, for the large tablet, you'll now have 25% more active area in practice. For the medium, 38% more active area in practice. And for the small, 36% more active area in practice. This is a perfect example of one of those quality of life improvements I mentioned. Most of you have 16:9 monitors and you need to use force proportions. And Wacom, through the adoption of a 16:9 aspect ratio and increasing the size of the active area, have given you a big upgrade in the drawing area available to you in these tablets. One other thing I noticed is that the Intuos Pro 2025 Large is pretty close to the size of the Intuos Pro 2017 Medium. Here they are side by side, and here they are stacked on top of each other. I'm very excited about this because I love using large-sized tablets. But large tablets take up a lot of space on the desk, so this would make it more convenient for me. And I think a lot of other people might be interested in upgrading to a large tablet now because it doesn't disrupt your desk space as much. We saw that the device sizes grew smaller, but the active areas grew larger, so naturally the difference has to be made up by changes to the bezels. All of the numbers here are very approximate, but the summary is this. While the top bezel grew in size to accommodate the ExpressKeys and dials, the bezels on the right, bottom, and left decreased in width between 70 to 80%. But numbers don't tell the whole story. I've put purple tape where the bezel is on the right side of both tablets. So anything to the left of the purple tape is the active area. And everywhere you see purple is the bezel where you cannot draw. The difference in width is quite obvious. As a reference, we can see that the Intuos Pro 2025 has a slightly wider bezel on the side than the Wacom MoveInk 13. So having smaller bezels at this size is not a new precedent for Wacom. I'm going to show you some photos of my hand with both tablets. Now, just to give you a sense of scale, I'm 6 feet tall and I have average size hands for a man. So you will have different results depending on your body, but I thought it would be instructive to show you how it was working for me. With the Intuos Pro 2017, I can get very close to the edge of the active area and keep my hand on the tablet because the bezel is so wide. It's only when I get to the very edge of the active area where my hand starts hanging over the tablet or maybe even resting on the desk. Whether it does rest on the desk or not seems to be highly dependent on the angle my arm is making with the tablet. With the Intuos Pro 2025, things are a bit different. To make this more clear, I've placed a ruler on the tablet. The 0 mark on the ruler is where the active area ends. To begin with, I'm pointing the pen at, roughly speaking, the middle of the tablet. That's about 130 millimeters from the edge of the active area, and my hand is completely on the tablet. As I move to the right, the tip of the pen gets to 100 millimeters, and my hand is still entirely on the tablet. At 90 millimeters, my hand is on the tablet, but the base of my hand can feel the edge of the tablet. At 70 millimeters, half my hand is touching the desk, and it feels like the weight of my hand is evenly distributed between the tablet and the desk. At 45 millimeters, my hand and the full weight of it is on the desk. My fingers are hovering over the tablet or maybe very lightly grazing it. At every point after 45 millimeters, my hand is just entirely on the desk. I mentioned to you at some point that about 90 millimeters from the edge of the active area, that the bottom of my hand could feel the edge of the tablet. The edge of the tablet doesn't look very different, but they feel different. I tried to capture that with this diagram, which is not to scale, and it certainly exaggerates the physical reality. The diagram demonstrates that the edge of the tablet for the Intuos Pro 2025 has a bit of a lip, and that lip is higher than the surface of the tablet, and I could feel that edge a bit more with my hand than with the Intuos Pro 2017. So the question is, are these smaller bezels going to be a problem? Honestly, it's hard to say. I think it depends a lot on your personal preferences, and what you're used to and how big your hands are. I found the experience okay, but very different from what I'm used to. The tablet is very thin, so it's not like my hand fell off a cliff. It just easily transitioned to the desk, so that was nice. And while the edge did not dig into my hand, and it certainly wasn't painful, I definitely noticed it more. And honestly, I learned something. I never really understood why some people really loved wider bezels. But now I get it. Because wider bezels did not disrupt my hand. With the Intuos Pro 2025, I noticed that when I drew a stroke that went all the way to the edge of the active area, or close to it, my hand would have to transition from the tablet to the desk. And honestly, I found that a little bit disruptive. For me, it didn't affect the stroke, but I can imagine for some of you it would. I am still adapting to the tablet and I am successfully drawing with it, but I think that some of you might find these smaller bezels detract from the overall experience of using the tablet. So this is something you should take into account, and if you can, get your hands on the new tablet or any tablet with smaller bezels and see how it works with your body. The Intuos Pro 2017 Medium was already a very thin tablet, at around 8mm throughout its entire body. The 2025 Medium is even thinner, except it has a wedge shape, so it's about 7mm thick toward the top and 4mm thick toward the bottom. In this way, it's physically very similar to the wedge shape of the Wacom Move Ink 13 pen display. With all the reductions in physical size, these tablets also lost a lot of weight. Across all the sizes, we see a weight reduction of about 40%. I was asked whether the tablet slides on the desk as you draw. No, it does not. While drawing, it does not slide at all. It stays securely fixed to the desk. The only way it's going to move is if you deliberately try to make it move by pushing it from the side. This tablet has a great texture feeling, and that great feeling applies to all 3 different nib types that are provided. It definitely has enough texture to draw on. Though I will say it has less of a texture feeling than the Intuos Pro 2017 Medium. Also, I would say that it feels softer to draw on, in a good way. I tried to press down very hard with the nib and see if I could erode some of the surface. I looked at it with a microscope and I did not notice much surface erosion, which is different from my experience with the 2017 Medium. My initial experience with the surface was great. I loved drawing on it, and it gripped the pen well. The pen did not slide around at all. Of course, I only used it for 2 weeks, so to fully understand how the texture changes as we draw, it's going to take some months and years to see what patterns develop as people use it. But overall, I think this is an improvement from the Intuos Pro 2017. Because there is less texture, I do also expect that nibs will last longer with this tablet than the Intuos Pro 2017. But again, this is something that will take time for us to understand as a community. Another thing that really struck me was how quiet it was to draw on the surface. It was noticeably quieter than the Intuos Pro 2017, even when I was using the same pen. When I draw on a tablet, I don't like if they sound scratchy, so I really appreciated the softer sound of this tablet. This tablet supports both a wired and wireless Bluetooth connection to your computer. There's a single USB-C port on the right side of the tablet, towards the top. The tablet came with a USB-A to USB-C cable. But like most tablets, you can use practically any USB-C cable that supports data. I tested it with 3 different cables and all of them worked. I tested it with the cable it came with. I tested the cable that came with the Intuos Pro 2017. And I tested it with a monoprice USB 2.0 cable. Because I get asked which cables I use, this is the exact monoprice cable. There's nothing special about this cable. The only reason I use them is because they're bright blue, so they're easier for me to see. One minor detail, the cable that came with the Intuos Pro 2017 had an L-shaped connector for the tablet, while the cable that comes with the Intuos Pro 2025 doesn't have an L connector, it just plugs in straight from the side. I prefer the L connector because I think it's a little more elegant. I did not test wireless with this tablet, but I know that Wacom did make an improvement here. You can pair this tablet wirelessly with 2 separate computers, and then a switch at the top of the tablet lets you pick which one you want to use. For those of you who travel between home and office, and have to connect your tablet to multiple computers, this might be very convenient because you don't have to keep on pairing the tablet every time you change locations. The driver I used was 6.4.9-2 on Windows, which was released on February the 15th, 2025. This is the first version of the Wacom driver that will work with the Intuos Pro 2025. So if you decide to purchase this tablet, you will have to install at least this version of the driver. Wacom has two driver configuration applications. The first is the Wacom Tablet Properties app, which has been around quite a while, and then the Wacom Center App. Both apps work with both tablets, but there is an important difference. The Wacom Tablet Properties app supports all the features of the Intuos Pro 2017, but only some of the features of the Intuos Pro 2025. And the Wacom Center supports some of the features for the Intuos Pro 2017, but all of the features for the Intuos Pro 2025. So, if you want to use the Intuos Pro 2025, you're going to have to use the Wacom Center. I bring this up because some people have problems with the Wacom Center. And if you are having problems, then you may want to delay purchasing the 2025 version, at least until you are sure that Wacom has addressed these issues in a later update. In the Wacom Center, you can see the new Intuos Pro Medium like this. Notice that the model number is clearly indicated as PTK 670. On the left, below the tablet, you can see 4 pen models listed. The Wacom Center has settings specific to each pen model. The reason 4 are listed here are because I touched the tablet with 4 different pen models. If you use different pens with the tablet, you'll see a different list of pens. Below the pens are the settings that are for the entire tablet. This includes ExpressKeys, dials, mapping, and display toggle. I'm not going to show you every piece of UI in the Wacom Center, but I will highlight the key ones that you will most likely need to interact with. In the Mapping tab, you can configure the tablet active area and map it to a single display, which is what I always suggest. And then also, you can turn on force proportions, which is also something I strongly suggest everyone do. If you click on a specific pen and then Advanced, under Tip Sensitivity, you can see the pressure curve. And for Windows users, if you need to change it, below you can see the setting for Windows Ink. For those of you who don't like the ExpressKeys at the top, you have the option to use the tablet with the ExpressKeys at the bottom. You can do this by clicking on one of the 4 orientation buttons on the right side. I tested the orientation with the ExpressKeys on the bottom, and it worked fine. One of the most important accessories for the Wacom Intuos Pro are the replaceable texture sheets. If you scratch up the surface, you can always buy a new texture sheet, and when you install it, you essentially get a brand new pristine tablet. The situation with the texture sheets has changed. With the Intuos Pro 2017, texture sheets were only available for the large and medium, but not the small. Texture sheets were available in 3 different texture types: standard, rough, and smooth. With the Intuos Pro 2025, the good news is that there's a texture sheet for all of the sizes, small, medium, and large. However, now there's only one texture type, which is standard. The rough and smooth options are no longer available. Because the names of the texture sheets on the Wacom online store can be very similar and may be confusing, you should take care to buy the correct texture sheet. They're pretty easy to distinguish because the texture sheets for the Intuos Pro 2017 have cutouts for the ExpressKeys and dials, but the texture sheets for the Intuos Pro 2025 don't have those cutouts. In addition to the Pro Pen 3, Wacom lists these pens as optional compatible pens. I think, however, this is not telling a clear story. I'll explain it in this table. Pens in the same family are grouped by color, and you can see which pens I actually tested, and you can see whether they're compatible with the Intuos Pro 2017 or whether they're compatible with the Intuos Pro 2025. First, we have the high-performance pens of the latest generation. This is the Wacom Pro Pen 3. It works with the Intuos Pro 2025, but it does not work with the Intuos Pro 2017. The second category is low-performance consumer pens. This is a set of pens that have very different names, but I bucket them as pens that use Wacom UD EMR. It's a little complicated to explain right now, but the takeaway is that there is some degree of broad compatibility with these pens and the Intuos Pro 2025, but not the Intuos Pro 2017. I'll cover this category separately in just a minute. Then we get to the high-performance pens from the previous generation. I tested the Pro Pen 2 with both tablets, and of course it worked. I don't have the Pro Pen Slim or the Pro Pen 3D, so I didn't test them. But I do believe they will work with the Intuos Pro 2025. And the reason for that is Wacom has described these pens as included in the Pro Pen 2 lineup. That's why I'm so confident that they're all compatible with the Intuos Pro 2025. Eventually, I'll purchase these pens and test them and add my results to my written notes. Then we have the high-performance pens from an even earlier generation. Now in this case, you need to make sure you're paying attention to the model numbers, because there are several pens in the Wacom lineup that have the same names but have different model numbers than are shown here. I tested the Grip Pen, the Pro Pen, and the Art Pen, and they all worked with both tablets. Wacom lists the Airbrush Pen, KP400E, as working with the Intuos Pro 2025. However, I found a video where someone tested this and found that it did not work. Why it did not work, I do not know. So this is still a question mark, and I'll have to research this. And then we have what I call high-performance consumer pens. To be absolutely clear, Wacom has never said that these pens were going to be compatible with the Intuos Pro 2025. But I know people are going to ask this question, so I wanted to be explicit about it. These pens are not compatible with the Intuos Pro 2017, and they are not compatible with the Intuos Pro 2025. Now let's talk about the Wacom UD EMR pens. Not all UD EMR pens are compatible, but some are. On the left are the pens that Wacom has listed as compatible. I don't have any of those pens, so I can't verify them. But I do have lots of UD EMR pens that use the same technology. These are the pens I have that I tested. 4 Samsung S Pens that came with the Samsung Galaxy Tab S, 1 Samsung S Pen Creator Edition, 1 Samsung S Pen that came with the Samsung S24 Ultra phone, 4 Wacom CP913 pens that came with the Wacom One 2019 pen display, and 3 Wacom CP923 pens that came with the Wacom One 2023 pen displays and pen tablets. All of these UD EMR pens work perfectly with the Intuos Pro 2025 Medium in my testing. And just to be clear, they did not work with the Intuos Pro 2017. The reason I focus on these UD EMR pens is not because they offer a great drawing experience, because they don't. They have a relatively high initial activation force. They have a relatively low maximum pressure. Some of these pens only have one button. And overall, the stroke quality within these constraints is just okay. I don't talk about these pens because they're great for drawing. I talk about them because they're cheap. The Pro Pen 3 costs $130. The Pro Pen 2 costs $80. And even Wacom professional pens that you find on eBay are very expensive. But these consumer UD EMR pens cost about $30. I recommend that you get one of these pens because they will be a great backup. True, they are not great for drawing, but if you have lost or broken your Pro Pen 3, it will be really nice to have one of these around so that you can continue your work, even if it won't feel quite as nice and refined. To summarize, the Intuos Pro 2025 Medium is an excellent pen tablet because it maintains the excellent drawing performance of the Intuos Pro 2017, and it enhances the drawing experience by adding quality of life features. However, some of the changes may be challenging, especially when upgrading, and this may not be the right tablet for you. For example, multi-touch has been removed. Some users will not like the new locations of the ExpressKeys and dials, and the much smaller bezels might affect how you draw, especially as you're getting close to the edge of the active area. So some of you might prefer to stay with the Intuos Pro 2017 a bit longer. If you are interested in exploring this tablet, and I do think it's a great tablet, but maybe just not for everyone, I'd highly recommend that you try the tablet before you buy. Thanks for your time, and I hope you enjoyed this video.